Everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
The Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Garden Doctor Show. Garden Doctor, Mrs. Garden Doctor.
We're here.
We are back. We're actually back.
Live,
And
in
my
person.
wife is going to do something that is just unbelievable. I can't believe that she has agreed to do this.
Uh-oh.
She's going to sing a rendition of Back Home in Indiana
No,
right now.
I'm not doing that.
Oh, I must have misunderstood her. I'm sorry.
I thought that was you.
Yeah, that could have been me.
Okay.
Could have been me because I do tend to break out in
It
song.
is so good to be back in Indiana, though,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah.
We just talked to her father, my father-in-law, back in New Hampshire, where we left 3 days ago. And it's 17 degrees there this morning. So if you think it's cold here in Indiana, I've got news for you. When we left, and I had some beautiful photographs of the snow up there,
Yes, you
there
did.
was about 12 feet of snow south of us, and 183
well, they
inches or
broke
something.
the all-time record in Boston, which is just
Over and
south
over,
of us.
all over the place.
But they broke the record that stood for about 100 years. It has had so much snow. You've probably heard about it on the news. Well, New Hampshire got a lot of that.
We did, and it went under us most of the time that we were up there, but we still enjoyed a fair amount of snow, about 6.5 foot. So the snowmobiling, the skiing, the ice fishing, there's beautiful ice out there.
They make the
18,
best of
20
it
inches.
with all these snow sports.
Fabulous, and they have a tremendous fishing derby up there that
Yes, they
just
do.
about everybody participates in.
But I'm never going to fish on the ice. I've told you. I just can't do
I
it.
ruined her on ice because we walked across. We were doing some goose hunting, 15 years ago.
Yep.
She went with me goose hunting. We were walking along the river, and there was false ice, which is ice when you get a flood, and then it
Yes.
freezes, and then the water goes away.
And the ice broke under my feet.
It was just a little,
It doesn't matter. It scared me,
there's
paralyzed
nothing
me.
under there, just dry.
I'm a Florida girl. I just can't walk on the ice.
Smash! She
No.
goes through the ice.
Don't
And of
like
course,
it.
it was all my fault.
But
But anyway, spring has sprung.
It is
as
spring.
of yesterday,
First
right?
day of spring, 2 days ago, I think.
I don't know.
I
We were
really don't
asleep.
know.
We drove for like
Yes,
24
we did.
hours and through a couple of pretty bad snowstorms. My
But we're
body
here.
does not recover as quickly as it used to.
And we are live tonight. This is our first live show.
This is
of
the first live show
2015.
of this year, and
Yes,
we
it
would
is.
love to have you call in
Please
and ask your
call in.
questions.
Number is on the
And,
screen.
We were remiss in getting all of our mail early enough to open it all up and answer, put some of those questions on the list.
I've got a mountain like this.
Yeah, quite a mountain.
I'm getting
the
there.
emails, we.
I've got 1,000 of those that haven't been
I
even
know.
looked at
and,
either. So
and,
patience, please.
we do try to post those. We try to respond to those. We try to
do.
consolidate. A lot of the questions are repeats, but we try to take the most popular ones and squeeze them down and put together a dozen or 15 questions
It's
for you.
still good information.
So we do acknowledge those. We do try to read every single one of them eventually. But when we're not here, when we're elsewhere, fishing in Michigan or New Hampshire or wherever it is we happen to be, when we're not here, we just kind of turn things off. And when we come
yes.
back, we don't always get them turned back on real quickly.
No, not always. And
We only had 2 days to prepare for this, and one day
This is
we
true.
spent sleeping, let me tell you.
And one of the reasons we were out of town so long on and off this year, my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, passed away in January, unfortunately, unexpectedly.
And you have to take care of business. That's
Yes,
just what
we
you
do.
have
Helping
to do.
the
So,
family out, helping his widow out. And
we had to
do the
go
best
up,
we
make
can.
a couple of trips back and forth that we had not planned on and that were unanticipated. And we didn't get to enjoy a lot of the winter sports, but that's what family does. You do what you have to do
That's
when
it.
you have
Jump
to
right
do it.
in there and do what you got to do.
And that's what we've done. We've got back here in time for this show. We made sure that we crossed the
Yay,
border,
we're home.
give us a day to recover, and I will be doing a tribute for my brother later on. I had photographs already, but I'm just not as technically savvy as I might think.
And waiting till the last minute doesn't help.
Oh, well, yes, it's true. But we also had some really good pictures of the snow and the drifts. And
oh, beautiful!
It's gorgeous up there. If you've never been to New England, there is no bad season to go, including the winter. The winter is just spectacular up there.
It is beautiful.
There was, my sister went. We didn't get to go, but there was an ice castle up there that is created just for, and you can go online and visit this ice castle. It's amazing. This individual comes from, I think, down under. I think he's from Australia. And he sets up these ice castles, and it takes him months to build these things. And it's actually icicles, and the whole thing is created and constructed out of ice.
I would have liked to have seen that.
And it's
we
just
didn't get
fabulous. The 2 or 3 times we were going to go, it was like 35 below zero.
I know. This is cool. I can't
Go to an
that.
ice castle is one thing, but when it's a blizzard,
No, let's stay home.
And then there was freezing rain another time, and people up there go out immediately when there's a foot of snow. That doesn't slow anybody down, and most things don't. But ice does. Ice, they stay home because everything is up or downhill. There is no flat. Even on the flat, you're going up or downhill. So.
Now, on our last show, I know that we had made several predictions about the winter, how much snow we might get, how much, and in Boston, like we said, they broke every record. I don't know what records were broke here in Indiana. I'm not quite sure. One prediction I know has not happened, and that was on our last show. I believe I predicted we would have new stools because these are terrible and killing my butt. But that prediction did not happen. We are still sitting on the same stool.
We are not sitting on a bed of flowers as you see.
And it's rickety. It's coming apart underneath me, but hopefully we won't hit the ground before the show is over.
There'll be a bed of roses here when we return.
Yes.
Next time you'll have a bed of roses to sit on.
But look here, look at already what we've got.
Pansies. Pansies are one of the things that don't care if it is cold.
Look at this.
If it's snowing, if it's freezing rain, if it's sleet. I have seen pansies entirely encased in ice. And the ice melted off, and they were none the worse for wear, and the blossoms continued.
And how do they do it? They look so delicate.
Petunias do that as well. And there's a new pansy out. It's either Alaskan or, I forgot. But it's iceberg pansy or something. And it's actually hardy, and it blossoms a little bit earlier, and it has a repeat blossom in the fall, which is fantastic because a pansy, the old ones were fairly short-lived. You had to pinch them all off, but these varieties right here are good repeaters.
And look at the colors; they're just vibrant.
Oh, it's just amazing the colors that they've been able to.
So
develop.
The next time I want to call you a pansy, what I'm really saying is you are a strong,
I'm a strong, beautiful person that can put up with the ice.
Right.
That's what a pansy is right there.
Call someone a pansy, that's a good thing now. So, all right, what else have we got?
If you have a question, call in. This is a live show.
Yes, live show.
We did not get a chance to announce and let you people know in advance that we were going to be here.
Fuzz in your
I don't know.
chin or
I got fuzz
something?
everywhere.
Okay.
I don't know. But
your dog.
That's probably it. And so there was no notice for I'm sure you'd be setting up just waiting for us to come on the air here. And if you know someone that would like to ask us a question, please pause for a moment, give them a call, tell them to turn on TV3,
and please do call in because last year they had discussed the possibility of making the show a pre-recorded show in which we would just bring you information because without callers, there's really no need for anybody to come into the studio at 7 o'clock in the evening. So, we have a caller now. Let's keep the calls coming so that we're not a pre-recorded show.
Well, we can be. Yes, I hear you. And go ahead. You're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
I've got a question. It's on something I heard you talk about at the end of one of your shows last year on ridding your yard of moles.
Yes.
And you said you wanted to check in on that before you get the answer on that. And I just wondered, what do you think is the best way to rid your yards of moles?
Oh, yes. I did some research on that. There are 3 new products on the market. One of those new products shows a great deal of promise. It's out of the University of Wisconsin. It is not yet approved. I thought it was already approved for usage on a home basis, but it is not approved, and so you have to have an applicator put this stuff down. Makes it very expensive, but the product seems to be very, very effective. Now, there's also a new product out. You know, we used to have gas. They were called gopher gassers, and you stuck it down the hole and you lit it, and there was some cyanide or something. I don't know what came out of the darn thing, but they weren't very effective because it didn't permeate through the environment underground, and you had to be careful of other holes and stuff. Now they have a new product that is almost in every market. I don't know if it's in the local ones, but if you go to the larger box stores, the building supplies and so forth like that, they have it. And it's a gopher gasser. And this one is much more effective. And the reason that it's more effective is because instead of it working on a gas basis, it actually puts something in contact with the soil that when they get it on their feet, and they lick their feet, which is a normal process of the
so
mold.
it has a residual instead of just a fume.
Right.
Okay.
So the fume doesn't travel for indefinitely, but it leaves a residual, and that residual in the tunnel is what is effective. Then there was another product that came out
I think what you really should have is a dog trained to kill 'em.
Oh yeah, well
that would be
actually,
the best. He might tear up your
I
whole
think
yard,
I mentioned
but-
that before. In Europe, they do have, and there are some in the United States too.
I almost had Tiny doing it. She was close.
In
but
Europe, they actually bring a dog to your yard. They set the dog house out. They walk the perimeter with the dogs. Usually, they bring a pair of dogs. And these two dogs, and they use them in Scotland, Ireland, and in England. And somewhere in Europe too, they use them. But they walk the property. They catch the mole and bring it up and put it in this pan. When they drop it in the pan, then a treat comes down for them.
Yes.
And of course, at the end of the day, you can see how many moles they've collected, and they are very, very effective to the point where it's ridiculous how effective they are. And we really need to bring them over here because it is a non-invasive, non-toxic method of control that is very
they're
effective.
a huge problem. I mean, they tear up my flower beds. They get up underneath, and the plant looks great all of a
So
sudden.
you can see that my yard is not mole free.
No, it's not mole free, and because he doesn't like to use a lot of
vole-free,
chemicals.
or
but the plant will all of a sudden start dying, and you go to see what's wrong with it, and underneath the plant is a hollow spot where it's eaten all the roots or something.
Now, this product that I'm talking about that has not been released is supposed to be under, it's supposed to be reviewed.
It's in trial stages now.
No, it's already been.
Okay.
It's already passed all that stuff. There was actually.
We want it.
You could buy it in one state, but it was not readily available,
Is it
and
a
it
chemical,
was too expensive.
a granule?
No, it's a chemical
Spray?
and
Okay.
it's you apply it to the yard. The one that I have found that was very, very effective that I had to buy out of Canada because I couldn't find a supply for it in the United States was Nicotonia. And Nicotonia is simply nicotine. That's the name that they give to it. And it's a concentration of nicotine. You spray it on the lawn, and this stuff is so effective that for about 3 to 5 years you won't have them. It is extremely effective. But finding it was a major problem. There was a supplier, used to have it. They were called Garden Way. They were down in Lawrenceburg. They since packed up. They moved. I tracked them down where they went. They were an organic.
Well, this gives me an idea for an
I
experiment.
wonder if you could order it on Amazon, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
it's very
on
possible.
Amazon.
But Nicotonia
Every
is,
time I
is
smoke,
fantastic.
and yes, unfortunately I smoke, I'm going to put my cigarette butt out in one of their trails.
Well,
Maybe there's something to
if
that.
you save the cigarette butt like the guys do and make this
a
big,
nasty juice.
Yeah, you make a gallon jug of it. Then yeah, but the spittoons is what
they used to
that's
use?
what they used to use. Yeah, and
Yeah, look on Amazon, though.
the
That's a
people
great
that
idea.
raise tobacco that did the stripping in their yard. A lot of times they did their stripping in their backyard. Never had moles, never had voles, never had any problems with grubs.
That's probably led to the
This stuff,
development of this product.
well, Nicotonia has been used for years as a spray on tomatoes and everything. It's a good product. It really is a good product. Now, the last thing is a derivative from the nightshade family. This derivative is extremely effective, but it is also extremely toxic. So if they get the thing figured out, you can make your own. You can boil tomato plants, just, when you trim all the leaves off, boil the foliage. But it takes a lot. You have to have a lot of nightshade plants to make enough tea to pour onto your yard. So, but it's a derivative of the nightshade. And a lot of stuff is plant derived. A lot of the pyrethrins that we use, digitalis, a lot of the stuff that we use in medicine is plant derived. But a lot of the insecticides are also plant derived.
And again, there's the good old-fashioned trap. I mean, that is effective.
Yeah,
if you
the
can
trap
get
is
'em.
effective, but if you don't use the trap right, it's very ineffective. You have to go out, roll your yard. You go out the next day, look for the fresh runs, put it in the fresh runs only, and put 2 traps. Put one at one end of the fresh run and one at the other end of the fresh run. And you need about 20 traps to do it right. And if you get together with all your neighbors, which is what we used to do, have block parties for this stuff, and we would set all of the traps at one yard. Instead of setting 2 traps at everybody's yard, set 20 traps in one yard and do that for about a week and just keep rolling about every 2 or 3 days, and you will knock the population down. Then, to keep the moles out of your yard, you want to put a band around your yard. Treat it with anything that kills moles and grubs. And
Yeah, because they do come to eat grubs. If certain soil has a lot of grubs in the
Yeah.
soil, like around hosta, that kind of thing, that's why we use the grub killer, grub
Diazinon,
control,
yeah.
and that will
I
keep
try
the
to use
moles
the
down.
least toxic, but really there is a better one that the farmers use that is you can buy. I'm trying to think
You're
of
out
it.
of practice.
Laredo.
It's been all winter.
La-
Laredo, that's a cigarette brand, isn't
No,
it?
no. Anyway, there's a brand that is a little less expensive, and you want to treat about 8 to 12 foot a band around you. You don't have to treat the whole yard, because when the moles come in from your neighbors or from the woods, and they usually come from the woods along the ditch, even though we accuse our neighbors, it doesn't always
It's all
happen
their
that way.
fault.
They come in, and if they don't find anything in about 6 to 10 feet, they turn. And then if they don't find anything, they turn. And then if they don't find anything, they turn. And then they're back out of your yard. So you haven't had to do anything except prevent them from getting in the first place. So anyway, this new product,
that
I cannot tell you about the new product.
Well, we
because
should have done a lot more
it is
internet searching before.
Well, I searched everywhere. I can't promote it because it's not authorized. It's not released for use. But the one that is the Nicotonia, that is if you can find it.
I might try that one.
That is a very, very effective product. Use as directed. Don't try to dilute it. Give 2 applications. Let the sprinkler take it down into the ground. The first one. The second one, you do a little bit. You do it without sprinkling. You want to look for when it's not going to be too much moisture, so that you've got 2 layers of this stuff.
Okay,
And then the extent, the longevity of it is phenomenal. It'll last, if you do it properly, in the soil for a couple of years.
And if you find it, let us know. Call in on the next show.
Yeah,
and let
please,
us know how
please,
it's going.
because
I will.
that everybody has moles.
Yeah, no kidding.
If you have a
They
concrete
were awful bad last year.
if you have a concrete driveway, you have moles.
Somehow.
Them darn things are everywhere.
Terrible.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Thanks for
calling. I think that I probably, if I could solve the mole problem, and there used to be a guy in town named the Mole Doctor. Anyway.
Okay. All right, we have another caller on the
Hey,
phone.
we got a caller. You're on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor. Go ahead. All right, thank you very much. We're
we
going to
lost
try to
him.
get him back. I think it's a call from Carolina?
Did you say from my brother? Then that would be from Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. Savannah,
family.
Georgia got hammered Oh my goodness, they got a storm down there, and they're not used to this stuff.
No.
They have nothing but giant mosquitoes, mosquitoes.
That's a state bird.
Yes. We'll try to get John back on the line there, and sorry
Yeah,
that I
call
got
me back,
so
brother.
wordy and dropped him off. We were trying to figure out if we were still streaming. I don't even know if we're still
Yeah, I
streaming.
think we stopped streaming the show a while back. They were doing a live streaming
Oh,
where
that
you
was
could watch
that
it
was
as
interesting,
it was happening.
and we were getting some interest in that. Okay, listen, we got John on the line. John, are you there?
I am here. How are you?
Hi, brother. How are you?
We're doing
Good.
well.
It's good to hear your voice.
Likewise.
Well, good. How is it down in Savannah today?
Oh, it's beautiful and a little bit of rain today, but at least it's pretty warm.
Oh, well, lucky you. We were pretty cold.
As in what? What's your temperature down there, John?
I will have to check on that. Hold on 1 second. It says 59 degrees right
69. Okay.
Oh, well, that's even cooler than what I had anticipated.
You had a storm come through there. We saw it headed right for Savannah. Did you get hit with that? It was a while back.
It wasn't too bad. It was just lots of rain.
Oh, okay, good,
Lots
good.
of rain.
Now, in Savannah, what's going on right now? Have you got tulips in bloom or daffodils or crocus or anything?
I have to admit that I don't really notice that so
Okay.
much.
Hey, there's people in the business
That's
and there's
right.
people that aren't in the business. I thought maybe I'd ask. Actually, you should be getting close to some cherry blossoms and things of that nature. So,
Well, I know one thing they do have.
Cherry blossoms. I think that
Okay.
my pear tree out back has not blossomed yet, though.
yeah,
Okay.
that
You
should
never
be a
can
little
tell
later.
with that. Some years you'll get a really early bloom, and sometimes you might also get none at all.
Well, I know one thing they have in Savannah that we did not realize how big it was is their St. Patrick's Day parade down there is phenomenal. We saw it on the news.
It's absolutely huge. The whole town goes nuts for St. Patrick's Day.
Did you participate in it this year? I know a couple years ago you and Margie and Katie, your daughter, were in on it.
Yeah, we have in the past, but no, this year, remember, we just got back from a funeral in New Jersey.
Right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Margie's grandma passed away, and our condolences to the family, of course.
Yeah.
We saw it on the news that it's the second largest St. Patrick's
I know.
Day in the world.
Who knew?
The second largest. It has to. The first has to be Ireland for crying
I
out
would
loud.
think so.
I would assume, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they were talking about the United States, but in any event, that's quite a feather in your cap, and it's a good time to have something down there too, because it's nice and cool, but it's still warm enough to enjoy the outside. So.
Now, will you guys have a garden this year?
Well, actually, we're thinking about that because, we tried to have a garden here the first year we moved in, but, to be honest with you, the soil here is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I would
You
do.
have just about maybe an inch of soil, and everything below that is sand and filth from once upon a time swampland.
Yeah, do it
Yeah.
all in pots.
You probably have
do
to do
everything
that.
in containers.
Containers, or you could make a raised bed with, some kind of wood
Yeah.
or something, and then fill that with good soil and compost material. But container gardening is a very good way to go.
Yeah, and you could.
Yeah,
grow-
well, while I was at Sam's Club the other day, I noticed that they had a raised bed that's 42
Uh-huh.
inches by 84 inches by about 8 inches deep.
yeah, that's all you need.
It's like $40 for that. You can just set it right up, and I guess fill it up with soil.
Right.
And you're ready to go.
Yeah, it's really preferable because then you're in control of what environment the root structure is growing in, what nutrients are in it. You can control how much water, how little water. It's a much preferable to growing in the ground if you can do it, and then you can change the soil as you see fit.
Now, you want to, of course, watch your varieties of plants. By reading the packages of seeds, you can tell how tall it's going to get, or if you want to get, say, a bush bean instead of a vining bean, if you're going to, put it on on steaks or something. So yeah, there's all kinds of different varieties and sizes of plants and fruit that you can, modify
we
your
were
garden
just
with.
talking about this. John is an expert in the computer business.
Yes,
he
he
could
is.
come here
Yes.
and tutor me in this computer nonsense that I'm
Okay.
getting stuck in. I just tried to bring a bunch of photographs here and they disappeared.
Yeah,
I had
you
them in
got
a
all
folder
mixed up in
and they just went
Picasa.
poof. I don't know where to. I'll find them in a month.
Well, here's a better idea. If we went down there,
And-
you guys could be working on the computer business, and I could be helping Margie and Katie set up a garden.
Set up a garden. There you go.
There
Sounds
you
like a
go.
plan.
Absolutely.
That would do both things with one trip. So I think it's time for a trip to
As
Georgia.
long as they got some fishing.
Oh, they have some fishing. We just got to get to it.
As a matter of fact, we can even get out onto the Army Air Force Base.
Wow.
And they have out there. They have I think they said 7 trophy fishing ponds.
Really?
You can't even keep anything under 12 inches, but you can catch stuff over 12 inches all day long.
Cool.
Now, they didn't have any of that, I don't think, when I was down
Well,
there.
you're not
It's been
allowed to
several
go
years,
anyway.
but
You're not allowed.
I wanted to do some ocean fishing, and then that wasn't all in the cards, but we went to the beach. That was awesome. But
We sincerely appreciate you calling, John. We do hope that you can. We were so glad that you got up to New Hampshire. We hope that you can one day make a trip out here to Indiana.
did you have a gardening question or anything else in particular?
Well, I got to say, my favorite thing to grow is tomatoes. I love tomatoes. And that's what I really want to get going this year.
If you grow them in a container, I will send you a pamphlet that I wrote many, many years ago called The Love Apple. And that's what a tomato is actually called. Thomas Jefferson added that to them because he couldn't sell them. Everybody thought they were poison. So, and I've written a pamphlet a number of years ago that it contains everything you could ever possibly need to know about how to grow a tomato.
One thing I will tell you, if you're going to go for a cherry tomato, they're not all created equal.
No.
There is one variety called Sweet 100. And
That we
they're
really, really like,
Oh.
and we do not get anything for
just
promoting
those
it.
for cherry tomatoes. It's called Sweet 100. They do produce hundreds, and they are sweet. They're not so thick-skinned.
Easy
They're
to
absolutely
grow.
delicious.
Fabulous,
Yes.
fabulous.
That's your best cherry tomato.
Oh, great. Well, that sounds like the thing for us then.
All right, very
You
good.
tell Katie we said hello and miss her terribly. I've got to
Margie
get
too.
online, and Margie too. And
We love you and miss you guys.
And we love you and miss you too. And we definitely do want to get out there to Indiana also.
All right, anytime, brother.
thanks for calling,
Okay.
John.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Well, how cool was that?
Thank you for calling. Thank you.
That
you.
was
That was
awesome.
wonderful. We have. I wanted this maybe.
Yes.
Do we have another call?
All righty. I think we're hearing
I
our
think we
producer
have another
talking in
caller.
our ear.
Yes.
All right.
Go ahead.
well,
You're on the
go ahead.
line with the Garden and Mrs. Garden Doctor.
Hello, Mr. Garden Doctor and Mrs. Garden Doctor.
How you
Hello.
doing, bud?
I'm starting a new adventure on raising strawberries.
Oh.
I have no clue on how to do it or anything, and I need some tips from you. And I'll hang up and listen to your advice.
All right, thank
right,
you.
thank you.
We appreciate the call.
Strawberries.
Now, strawberries are not one of my areas of extreme expertise. And, I was just thinking in the back of my head, okay, I can bluff my way through this. But there's a couple of things that I would want to know to tell you correctly. And I'm not sure what you do with the pH of the soil when it comes to strawberries. I believe that they like to be a little bit on the alkali side. But it's I would check that out first. Check to see what the pH is that strawberries are looking for. The thing that most people don't realize about all fruit and vegetables is that if you provide it with the right pH, then everything else can work well. If you have a lawn and its pH is 5, it won't grow. It'll gradually die and turn to moss. If you have a lawn and then the pH is 8, it'll die. It'll turn yellow and it'll all wither up and shrivel up and it'll just blow away. But if you have a pH that is around 6.5, 6 to 7, somewhere around in that area, or neutral pH, and you're growing a lawn, the fertilizer is going to release better, the nutrients are going to release better, the grass is going to grow better because it has the right pH. Now, strawberries, everything requires a certain pH. If you try to grow blueberries in this country, you are going to fail miserably unless you can modify the soil to make it extremely acid.
And constantly treat it
and
with
keep
the
it acid.
and
You just have to, sulfuric acid is what we use.
whereas in New Hampshire, blueberries grow,
They grow like
crazy.
a weed.
Yeah.
So I would look that up because I'm sorry to say that I really don't remember. I have set up strawberry beds in the past, but I really don't remember exactly what we did. Now I will tell you that the things that I do know is they do like good drainage. So if you have a soil that's clay, mix in some sand, till in sand. Sand by itself will increase the drainage and will be extremely beneficial to strawberries. And one of the reasons they call them strawberries is because they do like to grow on straw, and there's a reason for that. And that is you keep the dirt from splashing up onto the berry.
Because they are laying on the ground,
clean
yeah.
and fresh by laying in the straw. But what we do is you want to make a hill, mix in the nutrients that are required for the strawberry. I would strongly recommend bone meal. Bone meal gives you good strength and vigor in the plants, and then just a normal side dress fertilizer will be fine if you have good quality soil. And then you're going to want to plant them up on top of the crown and spread the roots out. So you build a little bit of a crown, a little bit of a hill, spread the roots out, and then bury those roots so that you're building even more of a crown. And then in the valley in between, that section through there gets some compost, about an inch or two of compost. Cover that with plastic. Now what you've got is the vine is going to grow out from the strawberry plant and grow down onto the plastic, which will be covered with straw or some kind of a medium like straw. You can use old grass clippings or whatever, so that the strawberries grow on top of that. But under that straw will be a layer of plastic. That keeps the weeds out, keeps the moisture in. Under that will be compost. Again, keeps the good moist growing medium. You have plenty of nutrient to replace into the soil. Be very careful with compost. Many people try to use compost too green when it's too fresh. And that takes away instead of giving back. There comes a point where when compost is actually composted so that it can replace nutrients and actually benefit the plants and feed them. But until it gets to that point, it has to demand a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, a lot of stuff out of the soil in order to facilitate, and facilitate this composting process. So, if the compost is greener, as it is and you should get some of the compost from south of town, but I like to further compost that stuff. You can put that in between. Put plastic on top and use a black plastic, don't use a clear. Clear plastic creates a greenhouse effect and can make it too warm. Use a black plastic and then 2 inches, 3 inches of straw on top of that. Then your strawberries will grow down into that. It also keeps the strawberries from getting too wet by being up on top. They don't like their crown to be too wet. Now, when you get ready, a foliar feed to stimulate some growth. Don't anticipate a whole lot of strawberries right off the bat. As a matter of fact, I usually pick the blossoms off. I know it's counterproductive, but pick the blossoms off the first time if they're ever bearing and let the energy go to the roots and to the stem. It's a nuisance to go down through there and pick them off, but if you got a small bed, it really is more beneficial. Then your next ones will be much bigger, much healthier. Foliar feed, very important. Side dress with a side dress fertilizer. By side dress, I mean like a triple 12 or whatever,
Something
just
granular
lightly.
off to the
granular,
side.
right in the valley, so that it'll soak down in, and the roots go to get it. It
Now,
doesn't
here's
lay
another
right on the
case-
plant.
Another case in which all varieties are not created equal.
No, they're not. You
I'm
want to
one
plant.
extreme to another from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, strawberries are. You can have strawberries that are no bigger than your little finger, but they're the sweetest things
Yep.
you ever wanted to eat.
Or
they're
those big horrible,
absolutely delicious.
well, they're beautiful in the grocery store and they taste like cardboard.
Yeah, that's all they are, just a hollow shell. Preferably, you select these. That's why you grow them at home, because you cannot buy these varieties. And normally you can't even go to a U-Pick and get them because they bruise so easily. Look up the varieties, and you should do this with raspberries or any fruit. Look up the varieties for taste as much as for anything else. We don't care how they transport. We don't care how easily they pick even. But if they don't taste good, what's
You
the sense
gotta
of
be
growing?
in the right climate and how they taste.
Right, and there's about 9 varieties that I used to sell for use here that are exceptional, and they just came out with a couple of new ones that I'm not even familiar with. So do a little research and don't just settle with the first plant that comes along.
And if you get a whole
you
bunch
can
of
buy them
strawberries-
online and get a good selection, a good broad selection.
That was Dave, wasn't it? If you get a bunch of good strawberries, Dave, you know where to bring a few, okay?
Yeah,
I hope
please,
I get
please,
some.
yeah.
I don't know how the U-Pick is doing out by us. Weren't they closed last year?
Yeah, well, he had, there was a bad season. Droughts came
Drought.
along. He had a lot of weeds come in there in one season. It's hard to do. And then, of course, when you're growing them commercially, you usually plow down and start all over again about every other year. You don't just keep harvesting. Now, in your own garden, you can take the trailers, put them into pots, let the trailers produce their own young, just like I do with my raspberries. You can continuously redo your garden by allowing them to grow in the valley, plow down the hill, and vice versa. You can rotate them around and allow fresh plants to come on.
Well, I'm hoping he has a better year this year with his crop out there on 121 because I'd like to come
I'm
out
not
and
sure
pick
if
some.
he's gonna try to do that
Is he
again
gonna
or
do
not.
it? I hope so.
Good
Mark?
friend of mine. He really and he had those are good strawberries. We enjoyed going up there and getting those. That was one of the questions that had come in, was about compost. And compost, if you get some from down south, and you really should, the recycled, down where they grind
right,
everything up.
below
Go
the
get
dump.
some of the
Yep.
compost down there, but it's not quite ready. Put it in a trash bag. Throw in some nitrate of soda, shake it up, mix it around a little bit, and seal the bag up and let it work. And then use it for next year or for later this season. But what you get there is going to take away as much as it gives back. So unless you get some really old compost, which there is some down there that you can get from the oldest piles, and you want to ask that question when you go down there, then you can use that as a side dress. But be careful, because it can take away as much as it gives back. We got a lot of questions about seed varieties, and seed varieties.
Oh, yes.
My wife has a contention about seeds.
Well, again, with plants, seeds are not all created equal either. And I had a problem one year where I had used leftover seeds from the year before, which I thought were fine. I kept them in a dry place. Everything was fine. However, and they were beans, which should be practically the easiest thing to grow, and then my depth was right, and the conditions were right, the rain was right, and only about 1 in 5 popped up. And he said, well, your seeds must have been old or something wrong. Well, I am now a firm believer in buying new seeds. I mean, they're fairly inexpensive. If you have some leftovers and you want to just throw them in a pile and see what happens, that's great. But if I'm going to go to all that physical effort to plant seeds, buy good quality seeds and follow the directions to the T as far as depth and spacing and watering and everything else. And, do it that way and make sure that you give them a good head start. Because if you've wasted all that time and only one in the whole row pops up, you're going to be frustrated and I'm going to have to plant that whole row over again. And gardening shouldn't be frustrating. It should be therapeutic and relaxing.
If you have seeds that are carried over or seeds that you're unsure of or whatever, there are ways to test the seed to see if it has good quality germination. You take a paper towel, you soak the paper towel, you lay the seeds in it, fold it over on top, set it up in the window, let it sit there for 5 days, whatever it says your germination is on that seed. Open that up and you'll see how many of them are actually going to germinate.
Yeah, but I don't have time to
I know.
run SATs on my tomato seeds or whatever. No testing. No. And again, that's time I could have been planting, all right?
The other thing that you can do is you can take those seeds, mix them with fresh seeds from this year,
Right.
which is what
Throw
many
'em in,
do,
see
and
what
they just put
happens.
them in a little closer.
Yeah.
And then if they all do come up, you have
Fine.
to
Yeah.
thin them.
You can thin them.
Please thin your plants
Mm-hmm.
if they're growing too close together, because if not, all of them are going to be puny if you don't thin them out. And I don't care if it's
That's
tomatoes
true,
or
and
whatever
I tend to
it is.
overseed. I know, and
If
you
you-
make me get out there and thin them out.
Thin.
Okay.
And it's very important for the depth. And let me tell you something. I planted, the garden doctor here, bought a farm south of town, 126 acres, of which about 75, 78 was tillable. We decided we were going to do our own gardening, our own farming. So we borrowed equipment and we plowed and we cultivated and we had this beautiful ground all ready to plant. And we went and bought beans because we couldn't afford the corn at the time. So we thought we'd buy beans, and we were a little late anyway. So we put the beans in and we waited and we waited and we waited and we waited. Nothing. Weeds are coming up. No beans. I said, oh, something's wrong.
Oh my
Went over and
gosh.
checked all the neighbors' beans. We're talking about 78, 80 acres of beans. Commercial, and we're almost running out of time. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Well, apparently we got bad seed. So we went and bought some more beans, and the farmer came over and he says, whoa, what are you doing there? And this was Bill Bunyard, and if you know how Bill Bunyard talked, it took him about 20 minutes to tell me I was doing something wrong. Bill was a good old fellow.
Yes, he was.
And
what were you doing wrong?
One time he ran for election, and by the time he explained to me that he was running for election, the election was over.
That's funny.
Bill says, Harold, he says, what are you doing there? And I said, well, I'm planting some beans. He says, oh my God. He said, you got that thing cranked. He said, that's as deep as the planter will go. I said, well, what do? I can't go any deeper. He said, no, shallow that thing up. You want to plant beans just scant under the ground. And that's the word he used, was scant. You want it just to be covered. The beans have to be able to see the daylight.
And you guys didn't even look into that much research before you
We planted them
all
about
that?
5 inches deep. If there's a farmer out there anywhere that believes he can plant beans 5 inches deep, he has not made any money in the last 50 years he's been farming, because you can't, you don't, you shouldn't, and it was a
Oh my
terrible
gosh.
disaster.
Terrible
so we replanted
disaster.
over the top. However, now the weeds have already grown. We didn't
what a
recultivate, we didn't
mess.
replow, so the weeds are growing. There comes our beans.
Suffocated.
Yeah, more or less. So we had a lot of weeds and
wow.
very few beans, and we learned our lesson to ask the right question, do the right research, figure out what you're supposed to do, and then hopefully do as...
Learn the hard way, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
Now, again, you can mix your seeds together. If you want to keep some of those old seeds, you just can't bear to throw them away, then mix them and put them in a row with some good seeds, and then you'll take a lot less chance of being a complete failure. But be very careful of what varieties you grow. Make sure it's a variety that try a new variety, because you might find that a new variety will grow better than one that you've been failing with over and over and over again. And that is especially true of tomatoes. I was talking to a gentleman just 4 or 5 years ago, and he'd grown big boys and big boys and big boys all of his life. He said, that's the only tomato I've ever grown. And he had a very poor luck with it. So we got him to switch from the location he had been growing for years and years and years to a brand new location for his tomato plants, a little sunnier. A tree had grown, provided some shade. There was a walnut tree that was a little close. I didn't like the environment at all. So a lot of things had changed. We moved him to a new location. We put him out with some, I think I had some Bonnie Bests and a couple other varieties that I'd put in there. Plus I put a row of big boys for him. And he grew these tomatoes, and they had a lot of resistance to diseases and verticillium wilt and all of the things that attack tomatoes. And it was a fabulous crop, absolutely tremendous crop. And over where he couldn't grow the tomatoes, he grew his vine crops, and they did beautiful over there. But you've got to rotate your crops. You've got to try some new things.
Well, I notice you rotate our garden, things you plant in different areas, and is that just for rotation of soil, or?
Yeah, kind of, and
Because we found some good spots where tomatoes have done really
yeah,
well.
we do. Out front, it really does. But our trees have grown so
Yes,
much
they have.
that
We've had to move.
the root structure is starting to compete for the water and the nutrients, and the shade is the soil out there is fabulous. That's an old hog lot, so.
But I like what you said about growing new varieties, because we, the big health food boom here, we grew a lot of kale. Well, instead of just the one kind of kale, which everyone is pretty much familiar with, the curly leaf kind, there is another type of kale that we grew that has a long, rough-looking leaf, almost like a leaf of sage or something, but real long.
But there was no bitterness in this thing.
No, not at all. And it was a wonderful, wonderful crop of that. And they grew like gangbusters. And I would trim it, as soon as it was ready. And it kept providing kale throughout the entire growing season. It was very nice. And then one year we grew kohlrabi, which was, I brought it to work.
If you have a child, you have to grow kohlrabi.
Yeah, grow something weird.
Because, or try these giant radishes. There are radishes this big. I'm not kidding. They're monster radishes.
Or big sunflowers even.
Yeah.
Something cool.
The new dwarf sunflowers are fabulous. Those teddy bears and stuff.
They are.
I grow 8 or 10 different kinds of sunflower because I love the
And the girls, when they come back to visit after seeing something they've planted, and then they see it in bloom like this with giant flower, it's amazing to them.
And right now, we had a question at the store. You can grow pansies, petunias, you can put in your radishes, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, and those crops really, really, really prefer now. If you can dry the soil enough to get out there and put the plants in,
they would. Now what if it were to snow
again? We had some snow on remember we had our cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts out, and we had snow on top of it?
I only remember a couple of years where we actually got it done very early.
Snow peas, they like snow.
Okay.
Most peas like to be grown in cold weather.
By the time I get my snow peas in, it's right along with the tomatoes, and then they end up not doing very well.
The only way you can grow later is to grow them in the shady side of the corn or something, on the north side of the corn where they're actually
I guess I've just never gotten out there and worked too much in the garden until it warms up.
Look at the cold weather crops and try to get them in early, and they really, really appreciate it. But don't put in the warm weather tropical plants like the tomatoes and the peppers and the cucumbers and all of the other stuff.
You're still going to get a frost, guaranteed, between now and...
If the ground, I don't care what the air temperature is, if the soil is cold, they will not grow. And if you stunt them at the beginning, you will not have good results. They'll be weak, they'll be susceptible to diseases and insects, and they just don't produce as well. Gotcha. So wait for the tomatoes, and don't buy stuff that's hardened off. Don't wait and put your cabbage and stuff in later. Put it in now, and you'll have much, much better result because the plants are younger, they get established, they root, they grow. There's no bugs out there to eat on them. So when you get a cabbage, it doesn't have the worms in it because there are no worms. It's too cold for them.
Now, I know we often start off with tomato plants or pepper plants, this type of thing. But I used to, hear from people, customers from where I used to work, that they are already starting their own tomato seeds. Now, is now a good time to
Carrie
start
Young
doing
probably
that?
has tomatoes up about yay high.
So
those things will be 6 foot tall before he'll be pinching them off.
So all you
15
need
times.
is
Call me,
what?
Carrie. I'm not kidding. I know you're doing it. I know. I can see them right there. Look, right there. See 'em?
So all you need is what to start your seeds right now?
Just a sunny window.
A sunny window
you can
and
use
some paper cups.
Dixie cup for crying out loud. You
An
can
egg
use
carton.
Use the peat pot. Yeah, use an egg carton and throw some dirt in there, some potting soil. Throw your seeds in there. Once they root, pop them out, move them over. You just have to be careful about too much moisture. You don't need all of the complicated stuff, but then again, the new stuff that's out there, the little seed pill. Have you seen that? It's a pill, and in the center you stick the seed. It swells up when you water it. The seed is drawn down into it.
Yeah, we actually used an awesome thing last year. It was a box with a clear plastic lid, and each container, it was like an ice tray, say, and each container, each square, and it had to be 10 by 10, 100
Super
squares.
simple, easy to use.
All
you
you
can
do
reuse
is,
it year after year after year.
You put your seed in there, water it, and then there's a bottom tray that holds water, and it tells you when to water it. And those seedlings were sprung up to just searching, leaning for the light.
We
up
forgot
above
what they were.
Yeah,
so.
and that's the other thing. label your seeds.
We didn't know if we were putting the sunflowers and the tomatoes.
Well, I said, surely I can tell them apart. I'll just put half of this, and the other half will be that. I could not tell them apart.
My wife wants to label everything in the garden.
Well, I want to see it, yeah.
She sticks out in the garden. And she writes, if she's planting daylilies, she writes.
And the sticks don't last.
And I have this very neat granddaughter. She is very, very neat. And she likes to make sure there's not a bunch of debris and trash around. And so she was out visiting one
picking
day,
up all my packages.
and she pulled out all of her
All my
little
sticks
and brought them to me, had them all in a pot.
Yep,
Look,
it's
Papa,
true.
Mama left these out there.
Oh, yes, that's
So,
true.
anyway.
Now, there's been a couple of ways I've done it for my daylilies, for instance. I actually drew a map. I took a pad and drew a map and labeled the rows and everything.
That's the
good.
way to do it.
That is a very good way to do it. But however, I do like to walk out into the garden without having to bring my map and see what I've got going on. So what I used to do was just put a rock inside the seed packet and lay it at the beginning of the row.
We've been doing it for 100 years.
Right. Well, now you got to realize after watering and sun, after a month or so, you can't even see that package anymore. So what I started doing was putting a rock in the seed package, putting the seed package in a Ziploc bag, and putting that at the edge of the row.
Put the Ziploc bag in a trash bag, put the trash bag in a truck, park the truck on the...
And you'll never know what you have. Seriously, Ziploc bags are an amazing invention, and they protect the seed packet, and the rock keeps it from flying away.
And my granddaughter will collect all of the Ziploc bags and bring them to
She
me.
can pick up anything but Ziploc bags. I love you, kiddo.
Hey, you need to put your soil amendments out right now, and it's very important to know what you're lacking before you go adding something or perhaps even trying to counteract the excess of it. So, you need to have a soil analysis. These are not that complicated to get.
Now,
They're
you've talked
not that
of this
expensive.
before. Tell us how to get a soil analysis.
Go see your extension fella.
Okay, and
or
who
lady.
is he?
Could be a lady.
Where is this place?
In the basement of the courthouse.
Okay.
Roam around down in there until you see some guy, wandering
Do
around.
they give you a special kit, or you just bring in a cup
kit.
of dirt?
They give you a piece of paper and they say, this is what you do.
Okay.
And they do the same thing with the water. There's a place down there in the basement where you can go and have your well water tested.
Very good idea.
And you really need to do that.
Absolutely.
You should also consider purging your well. If you don't know how to do that, they can tell you how
Especially
to do that.
if you live
in
near
the
a
basement.
river, yes.
and if you get any flooding or anything going on, you very, very much need to look into that. So get your sample kit, tell you how to take a soil sample. It tells you the steps to follow.
Okay.
Get your soil analysis, get it sent off, get it back, tell them what it is you're going to grow.
And is this relatively quick process to get your analysis
Fairly,
back?
but you need to do it as soon as possible. It should have been done a little while ago.
And will it offer recommendations?
Yes, definitely.
To what to do about
and
these
how
problems?
much to apply and when to
Okay.
apply it, and there's just a wealth of information.
Great.
That's what the extension office is for. We need to utilize it a little bit more than what
Okay.
we do.
And is there a
there's some
charge
great
for that?
people. Yes, there is a charge for the soil analysis. It's not a lot.
What, like
This is-
$5, $10?
I'm not sure right
Okay.
now, but there's also a charge for the water analysis, I believe.
And what is the actual name of is it a Purdue Extension.
Purdue Extension, yeah.
University
Purdue, right.
Extension office.
It's in the basement of the courthouse. Go
Okay.
down
Because
into the
I've
basement.
heard you talk about it before, and I wasn't too familiar.
And I
with
should know who the extension officer is, agent is, but I really don't.
We maybe shall get to know
Well,
him.
I got to know the one in Liberty and so forth. So
And again, we are on a live show tonight, so if
yeah,
you're
you got a
thinking
few
about
minutes
calling
left to
in,
call in. You're
you got a
about
few
to run
minutes
out of
left to
time. But
call.
anyway, you want to do soil amendments now because they work
Okay.
into the ground with the freeze and the thaw, the freeze
Right.
and the thaw. So if you need to apply lime to your lawn or lime to your garden, do a litmus test, at least a pH test. Go to the drugstore or somewhere and get you a pH tester. Test your lawn, test your garden. If you need to add lime, do it now. Do it
pH
now.
tester for like you get for your swimming pool.
Yeah,
Okay.
same thing. pH is pH. Okay, so you can at least do that much. If you are going to add amendments to the soil that you already know you need to add, acidity for blueberries or whatever that happens to be, you want to do that now. Amendments. Fertilizer, no. You only add don't waste the fertilizer by adding it too early or too late for that matter.
Well, you're just fertilizing
Apply
weeds.
the fertilizer to the plants
Right.
in their as they're growing, not in advance of their growing, because
Okay.
it doesn't do
Well,
you
that
any good.
makes perfect
you
sense.
lose all of the nutrients, and we actually apply way too much fertilizer in massive volumes. It gets into the rivers and the streams and the septic systems, and it's just a nuisance. So only apply what it is required. And if you have your lawn treated 7 times a year, try for 4 or 5. It's really not necessary to have it treated that many times. That's ludicrous.
No matter what they tell
Yeah,
you.
no matter what they have them call me. But in regard to amendments, you can put them on anytime. But fertilizers, and if you're specifically treating for a disease or an insect, you put that on only as needed, only when necessary.
Now is a great time to be cleaning out your flower beds with all that leaves and dead plant material, and get all that, paper that has blown into your beds. Get all that cleaned out. And my personal suggestion is, if you've gone to the trouble to clean out a flower bed, one that does not involve seeds at any time in the future, every time I clean out a flower bed, I put down weed preventer, because I think it's just, you can't be too early and it can't be too often, in my opinion. And I know that's probably against the instructions.
No, it's really
a little
not,
bit,
because
but
the seeds are there now. The weed seeds are there awaiting
Right.
germination.
and it stops seeds from germinating. That's how it works.
And that's why she was very careful to say, if you're going to put any seeds out, don't use this in
don't
your
use
garden. You can only use weed preventer
In an
in your
existing
garden
flower bed.
after your seeds in your garden have germinated.
Yes.
And I really like them to be up a couple of inches.
And that's another
I like them to be
another
good and strong.
application. But in your flower beds, it's existing, and you already know what's in there. It just hasn't sprouted yet. Clean out all that debris and leaves and what have you, and apply your weed preventer to that bed. And now you know you're going to eliminate as many weeds as possible when everything else starts blooming, and you're good to go.
And it really is a good idea to cover a section of your garden with clear plastic right now.
Now we're back
you're
to the
gonna
vegetable
warm it up.
garden,
You're going
not
to heat
that
it up. Well, you can dry out your flower garden too, but you're gonna get that ground ready faster. You're going to cause some of the weeds to germinate. You take the cover off. You let them freeze. It kills them back. You're going to get some of the insects to hatch. You uncover them. Let them get
Let
froze
them
at
kill.
night.
Okay.
Natural insecticide, natural herbicide. You warm up the ground, you dry the ground out, so you can get in there and work it much earlier, and then you can put your amendments and stuff in there. You can even put some plants in earlier, that because the ground is warm. However, your cold weather crops put over on the other side. Now, when she said clean out your flower garden, make sure if you do clean it out and you have bulbs in there, put some mulch down. Clean all of the debris out, clean the junk out, but replace over your bulbs or over any soft plants that might grow with mulch.
Because they're not ready to be exposed to the world
Just
yet.
keep them cold for a while longer, and it'll be much beneficial to them.
Well, I have really enjoyed sitting on these terrible stools with you again. It seems like
Oh,
it's been a long
John,
time.
you are.
Oh, yeah.
I hope we are streaming and you're watching this somewhere, and because you're being busted right
Well,
now.
I think we're down to a couple of minutes. Anything else you want to get in there quick?
Well, yeah.
One thing I want to say, get your dogs on Heartgard and back on
There you
their
go.
flea and tick preventative, because with the weather breaking, mosquitoes are going to be out and about again, and a lot of people don't even use the preventatives, while the mosquitoes are at bay. Put your dogs on Heartgard. That's a terrible way to lose a pet for such an easily stoppable thing. So get that Heartgard for your dogs. Put your dogs on flea and tick preventative. Keep them outside. Those awful ticks and fleas, you don't want to bring them inside. Your dog, they'll hitchhike right all over them.
It's a good time in a little bit to treat your lawn. If you're going to treat your lawn for fleas, and many people do, fleas and ticks, because they're trying to decrease what comes into the house, you can use an organic. 7 Dust is the one that has been used routinely, but you want to rotate. Rotenone, 7 Dust. Rotenone, 7 Dust. Those are the 2 organics. There's a third one
And
that's
you have
out
to
there
be
now.
careful too, because you don't want your dogs out there walking in that stuff.
And they will
right
get it
now.
on their feet. They'll
Yep,
lick it,
they'll lick it,
and
so-
they'll ingest it. So you want to be very careful what you apply anywhere that your pets are going to go.
Absolutely.
Because they do pick it up on the pads of their feet, and their feet are not. That is not a shoe. That is part of their skin that's down
Yeah.
there. So it's absorbed right up through there.
15 seconds, honey.
We are glad to be back in Indiana. When you see us go down the street, wave to us and say,
Hi,
hi,
Fran.
welcome back.
My bestie girlfriend, Franny. Haven't seen her.
Love you all. See you next time. Bye now.
The Garden Doctor.